This pedal has some really cool transistors in it, but before we get into that, let's talk about these controls and what they do. This switch here, this is the first time I've added it to a pedal, and it's called a Sziklai switch, or at least that's what I call it, because it turns your Q2 transistor into a Sziklai pair, a Sziklai Darlington pair. It combines the two transistors and gives you a slightly different texture. It's just a cool little added feature to add to this circuit. And then this middle dial here is a really cool feature too. This is a bias controller. It adjusts the bias voltage to the transistors. And the reason why you would want this is because for germanium transistors, which sound so much better than the silicone, I think. They sound warmer and more organic. The downside about them is that they are inconsistent with temperature and humidity. So what this does is it adjusts the voltage so you can get it to sound the same. And you can know it sounds the same because I also put a bias meter here, a voltage meter. And let's turn that on right now. So right now it's at 4.28 volts. The designer of the circuit said to bias it at 4.5. So 4.5 volts. Now this is what it would be biased to in the shop. In the 1960s, they're making these. They'd bias it to 4.5, or that's if they biased it. If you get a boutique pedal, they'll bias it to that. But by the time it gets to your house, it's not at 4.5 anymore because the temperature changes. So this gives you the perfect voltage to which changes the sound drastically. If you want a more modern sound, you can boost it up to like 5 or in the 6s. And that'll give you a more like a higher gain and maybe a little bit better cleanup too. And if you go down to maybe the 3s or 2s, then that's going to give you like a Velcro kind of sound, or probably a velvety sound. If you go to the 1s, then you're going to get a Velcro kind of sound, which is a cool sound to mess around with. And this turns off when you engage the fuzz. So you turn it on, the fuzz turns on, and that turns off. And the reason why I did that is because sometimes the voltage meter can cause like a small amount of noise in a circuit, and if you have like big pedal boards or whatever. So I did that so you don't have to worry about that. There's also an off switch to turn the voltage meter off in case it's causing noise. Now let's get into the transistors, which are really cool. This one right here, this is a glass resistor, a black glass. It's really cool. This is an OC602 transistor. And here is a NKT279A. This is from New Market, and I have a small batch of these. These are really awesome. New Market is the original company that made the transistors for fuzz faces in the 1960s. I also have this BC109 transistor, and that's the Darlington, or sorry, the it adds to the NKT279A when you flip that switch. So you're probably wondering why this has two batteries. It has an additional battery for the voltage meter, and the reason I had to add that is because this circuit has a negative ground and the voltage meter has a positive ground, so I had to add an extra battery for that. But the voltage meter takes very little power, and it should last a really long time. This has carbon comp resistors, which give you like a kind of a like a distortion, but I guess it's a really sought after distortion. It kind of adds color to the sound, is what people say. But these are vintage resistors that I salvaged from a 1960s organ. And then these capacitors, they look a little bit different than the original ones. They're just the same values. However, they're a higher quality. These are polypropylene capacitors. You notice the size of this thing? That's a huge capacitor. And the reason this is so big compared to the original ones, which would be electrolytic, it would have two electrolytic capacitors here. And those they don't last quite as long, and these are like a higher fidelity. They're just a higher quality. You're gonna get a better sound, more cleaner sound. This is also polypropylene too. Normally it would be polyester. So all the capacitors are upgraded, the resistors are upgraded. This little dial right here, this is actually the fuzz controller, which I don't think you need, because when you turn the fuzz down, it gets like kind of dark, and it just doesn't sound good to most players. That's why they roll the volume back on their guitar. So what I did is I put the fuzz controller here, and you can adjust that if you need, like a set it and forget it kind of thing. And this, the fuzz right here, this is actually a pre-gain adjustment. So it does the exact same thing as rolling the volume back on your guitar. It'll just give you a much nicer, clean sound. It'll give you the Jimi Hendrix sound, because what Jimi Hendrix did was he maxed his fuzz, he turned his fuzz all the way up, and he rolled back his volume knob. But this gives you that sound without having to roll it back on your guitar, because this is a volume knob here in front of the circuit, acting exactly like the volume knob on your guitar. This is a 250K potentiometer, just like on Jimi Hendrix's Strat. So those are the features, and I guess that's it for this video. I have more pedals in my reverb shop. There's also one with 2 bias adjustments if you're you want more adjustments, more controls. So check that out. I do have some less expensive pedals that sound really good too. When I take the circuit out of these, I put them in different enclosures, and I sell these too. And I do mods to them. This one has the bias mod. And I actually put I upgraded the transistors in these. Yeah, check out my shop, see what I have, and I will subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I'll see you in the next video.